Hey guys, what's going on? It's Ben here, and today I'm going to be doing a video talking about the New Orleans Pelicans and how I think that their team could have been drastically improved if they would have done one move differently in their history. And that particular move is trading for Demarcus Cousins 2 seasons ago at this point in January or February of 2017. It was during the All-Star break. They traded for Demarcus Cousins. Essentially, the trade was Buddy Hield and Tyreke Evans in exchange for Demarcus Cousins. There's another player exchanged for each team, but that was just to make salaries work. But essentially, it was Tyreke Evans and Buddy Hield to the Kings for Demarcus Cousins. Now, the reason I want to address this is because I feel like looking back, that Demarcus Cousins trade really didn't do anything for New Orleans. The season in which they got him, he played for them. He did all right. He averaged 24 points a game for the remainder of the season, along with, I think, around 11 or 12 rebounds. And he played well, but the team itself didn't make the playoffs and didn't particularly improve that much at all. But people were saying, you got to give them one off season to work together and improve and stuff like that, etc., etc. Okay, so then we get to this season, 2017 to 18, last year, and they had the offseason to play together and work out and get everything together, Demarcus Cousins and Anthony Davis. And so people thought, okay, they're going to be a lot better. And from what we saw, they were like all right. They were a little above 500 for most of the year, maybe like I want to say two games above 500, around that range, going from an even record to about 2 games above 500 and back and forth like that. And then Demarcus Cousins went down with this torn ACL, and the Pelicans after that went on a 10-game win streak, and they became the 6th seed in the playoffs, and they won in the first round and got to the second round. And everyone said, they really don't need Demarcus Cousins. It seems like they're doing better with a more up-tempo pace, which they had without Demarcus Cousins, because he slowed down the pace of the game a little bit in that he liked a lot of post-ups and stuff like that. So really, without Demarcus Cousins, the team did a bit better overall. Now, looking at how this team performed in this season, they're doing all right. They're, I think, as of today, they are 7-7. That's subject to change, though, of course, as the season goes on. But they look all right, and they're playing this more up-tempo style. But to me, they're just missing a little bit of punch, and I think that may be the missing piece of Demarcus Cousins or some. But not for me. It's not Demarcus Cousins that's the missing piece. It's a strong perimeter scorer. Now, yes, they have Jrue Holiday, who plays primarily shooting guard now, although originally more of a point guard. He plays more shooting guard at this point. Originally a point guard. He plays more shooting guard. But they don't have like a good pure shooting guard / small forward. Ejuan Moore plays a lot of minutes for them at shooting guard, and he's like all right, but he's not a guy that can be like your third leading scorer on a team. And Wesley Johnson's been starting the last couple games for them at small forward. And while he's a decent player, he's really not a decent player, honestly. He's a guy that should be your 10th man off the bench and be playing 10 minutes a game at maximum. And he's playing 20 minutes and starting for them. And then you have Mirotic, who they primarily play at power forward and not at small forward. He can play a little bit of small forward. He did a little bit in Chicago. But really, he doesn't and shouldn't play much small forward. He can't keep up with wing players that well. So they're really lacking like a good perimeter player that can create his own shot. That being said, this is where I was reviewing this and thinking, they really should have never given up Demarcus Cousins, because you know what they gave up for Demarcus Cousins is 2 guys that would perfectly complement what this team is right now. So getting into some details, what I mean by this is last year, Tyreke Evans basically had the second best season of his career, except for when he won Rookie of the Year. So his statistics when he was with New Orleans during the season in which he was traded, he wasn't doing that well. shooting 40% from the field, averaging a little under 10 points a game, which wasn't great. But then after they traded him, and he signed with Memphis in the offseason after the 2016-17 season. And last year he had a tremendous season in which he averaged 19 points a game, 5 rebounds, and 5 assists a game. So he did really well. And I think that that's somebody that New Orleans could use right now. Drew Holiday's trying to become more of a shooting guard, so he's handling the ball less. And what Tyreke Evans does best is basically play point guard. He's 6'6", so he's a bit taller. And when he was in New Orleans for his first stint, what they really wanted him to do was basically play small forward because they had an established point guard in Drew Holiday and they had a shooting guard in Eric Gordon. So Tyreke Evans got awkwardly pushed to the small forward, which he can do because of his size, but really naturally he's more of a point guard. So for this team, I would have liked if they would have had kept Tyreke Evans because he can provide a distributing punch and a scoring punch. In his best season in New Orleans about 4 years ago, he averaged 17 points and 7 assists a game. Now, after seeing him revitalize his career in Memphis, I think we could expect similar numbers if he went back to New Orleans, around 16 to 17 points a game with maybe like 6 to 7 assists a game. So I would like him in New Orleans, and I think he'd be an upgrade at point guard over them starting Elfrid Payton, which they've been doing, or even Drew. They could do some combination of like Tyreke Evans brings it up sometimes or Drew brings it up sometimes, kind of split the point guard roles, but basically use Tyreke Evans as a point guard on this team, or a point forward if you want to play him at small forward. But you have him handle the ball, such as like Andre Iguodala does a lot. He's like basically a point guard, but like in a small forward's body, and then like sort of like a LeBron too. Just like they bring the ball up and start the plays, even though they're not at the point guard position. Now the other component of this is Buddy Hield, who I would really like to see him back in New Orleans, and I think it's unfortunate that he's not there. Just for reference, he's a very good shooter and would fit very well with this New Orleans team. They like to run a lot now this year, and they need as much spacing as they can get because Anthony Davis is best when he's playing on the inside. But just for reference, Buddy Hield last year shot 43% from 3, and this year is again shooting 43% from three-point land. This year he's putting up career bests in all the major 3 categories of points, rebounds, and assists. He's averaging 19 points a game, 6 rebounds a game, and 3 assists a game. As I said again, he's shooting 43% from 3 and 47% from the field, which is pretty good for a shooting guard. So if New Orleans had never done this trade with the Kings, they could still have those 2 guys who would almost slot perfectly into this team right now. And a big component of this, I know, is the salary, because maybe that doesn't work or whatever. But looking at New Orleans' cap for this year, they're at $113 million, which is above the hard cap of $101 million, I believe. But it's below the soft cap, which is what actually matters. That's like the ultimate limit. Or they're above the soft cap, I should say, which is $101. And the hard cap with the luxury tax would be $123 million. So at 113, they're 10 below that. Currently, Tyreke Evans is making $12 million and Buddy Hield is making about $3.5. So let's just say $16 million. So obviously they'd need to cut $6 million in cap space for this to work. But conveniently, who is making a little over $6 million a year for New Orleans is Wesley Johnson, who they really don't need, and they could have just not signed him in the offseason, and they could have still signed Julius Randle. They could have still traded for Nikola Mirotic because the money would have worked. And so if they would have not done this trade for the Demarcus Cousins, they could have retained Tyreke Evans and Buddy Hield. They could have re-signed Tyreke Evans for the reasonable $12 million that he re-signed for with that he signed for with Indiana. And then this team would be looking really good. They'd be under the salary cap as they need to be. And yeah, they'd be pretty set. So looking at what the lineup would be if they wouldn't have done that trade for Cousins, the current lineup would look something like, or maybe this wouldn't be their starting lineup, but I feel like this would be like not their death lineup, so to speak, or their best lineup in crunch time, their best offensive lineup. It would be just slotting into the positions. Let's see here. It'd be Drew Holiday at point guard. At the shooting guard, you'd have Buddy Hield. At the small forward, Tyreke Evans. At the power forward, you'd have Nikola Mirotic. And at the center, you'd have Anthony Davis. I think this lineup would be pretty destructive in that every guy, basically outside of Tyreke Evans, every guy has a three-point shot. Tyreke Evans can shoot it a little bit as well, but not as good as the other guys. Let's see here. Last year from three, he actually shot pretty well, a career high 30, or not career high, but tied for his career high at 38% from three-point land, which is pretty good. So even he can shoot it from outside. And everybody is basically an offensive threat. Now Mirotic is more of a catch-and-shoot guy, but basically every other guy on the court can create his own offense. Again, as I say, they're all shooters, so the court would be spaced beautifully. And I would say with that roster, I'd promote New Orleans up to the second best team in the West right now, because I can't really see anybody else who'd be better. And they'd also have a bench of E'Twaun Moore and Julius Randle as their main guys off the bench. And I think, honestly, with that 7-man unit, they would do so well. E'Twaun Moore and Julius Randle would be great guys off the bench. Julius Randle can provide a little more muscle and physicality if you need that against a team that plays a little bit bigger. And E'Twaun Moore, he can just provide some offense off the bench and some rest for the guys in the starting lineup. Again, they didn't need Julius or Wesley Johnson. They could still just play Darius Miller as a backup small forward, and they'd be fine with him. So yeah, I like the idea of New Orleans maintaining Buddy Hield and Tyreke instead of trading for Demarcus Cousins. Now at the time, it seemed like a really good idea. Obviously, you were getting the best center in the league, and you thought that they were going to be like the next Twin Towers in this dominant duo. But just the way it works out, we have the privilege of hindsight, and we can see that maybe in retrospect, it would have been way better for New Orleans to not have made that trade, kept the budding star in Buddy Hield, and kept the really good, solid starter and contributor in Tyreke Evans, who, if given the ball handling responsibilities, can be much more effective. So if this team were to be formed, I would suggest that they keep Tyreke as basically the point forward and keep Drew as sort of like a shooting guard type. But you'd obviously have Drew guarding the point guard and Tyreke guarding the small forward just because of their body sizes. But basically, you would have Tyreke as the point forward and him handling the ball and setting up the offense. So this is just a little quick video. I hope you guys liked it. I found it very interesting. I would really have liked to have seen this team with those two guys. It would have been such a good fit, and just, nobody thought Buddy Hield was going to develop into what he is being this season, but I think he's proving that, not that he's going to be a star necessarily, but I think that he's proving that he can be a consistent 20-point scorer in the league and can do it on good shooting percentages. Okay, that said, I hope you guys again enjoyed the video. If you have any comments, let me know, and I'd love to hear from you guys and discuss what you think about this trade and about the players involved and the whole scenario in general, because I think it's a very interesting one and one that looks a lot different in hindsight than it did at the time. Hope you guys have a great day. Bye.